So this is a bit of a late night recording for me, but I don't want to go to sleep without recording my next video because this book goes back tomorrow. So Loveless by Alice Oseman. Honestly, over 400 pages long. One of the I haven't enjoyed a book this much in a while. So today we're going to be diving into Loveless by Alice Oseman. As usual, full disclosure, I do discuss a lot of the plot points in these reviews, but I also, if you've not read this book yet, my cat was knocking on the door. Anyway, if you've not read this book yet, you don't want spoilers, this is your sign to click off the video and perhaps come back after. And yes, I know, my cat's just coming. Let's get on to the review. I also do have a script which I've wrote on my Chrome book, just to help me with, because some books I read through really quickly, but this one was honestly a really good read. I started it at about 12 and I finished it at about 10, so it took me longer than one of these books normally would, but let's get on to the review. So this novel takes us through the life of Georgia War, a 18-year-old who has never had a crush or ever been in love. She's always assumed that romance is something that will just happen eventually, and she's watched enough rom-coms, read enough fan fiction to convince herself that she understands and knows everything there is to about love. She's a really interesting protagonist, and she was one that I resonated a lot with as someone who's also erased myself. And I really enjoyed seeing her character development, because there was a lot in there about my own sexuality that was really interesting to see portrayed in the book and captured so well. One of the things that makes her so relatable, though, as a main character for me, was how she was learning to deal with these emotions, and the passage of making mistakes and coming to terms with the fact that some people don't have certain feelings or certain emotions, and some people are just built different. But as well as the fact that she's starting to embrace her identity as Aero Ace, and her growth isn't about finding someone, she doesn't need it to be whole. Then we have Pip and Rooney. I really love the very bizarre dynamic. It was more of a like enemies to lovers kind of thing with those two, and one thing that I found interesting was how they seem to be enemies for majority, and when I say majority, I do mean the vast majority of this book. I did not think they would ever actually become a couple, so because I was like, I got to the point where I'm like, I maybe have 20 pages left, and normally it feels rushed with those sorts of things, but it didn't feel rushed in with this book. I really like Pip, who's this fiery and passionate and protective friend. She's like the person who tells it how it is, and she isn't afraid to upset people, which works really well with George's personality, because a lot of things just go over George's head like that. And also Rooney, and her difficulty with understanding the role of friendship, the role of romance. There are conflicts, a lot of misunderstandings, and a lot of heartbreak throughout the book between all these characters. And I just thought the overall development and seeing how the characters developed throughout it was really well wrote. And then we've got Jason, who is George's childhood best friend. So it's Jason, Georgia, and Pip, who the three of them have their own trio, and then Rooney is like this university friend that she makes and is just pulled along the ride. One thing that I found really interesting was his key role in George's identity. For one, she didn't understand when she was still trying to figure out that she didn't like dating and had difficulties with it. Like, she just liked the idea rather than the actual dating side of things. And she tried forcing herself to feel romantic attraction for this guy, and then their friendship sort of dives off a bit towards the end. One of the really powerful elements of Loveless is how it challenges the idea that romantic love is the ultimate goal in life. I feel like, especially as someone who's an aro ace myself, there's a lot of hi. As someone who's aro ace myself, there's a lot. Hello. I'm filming. You not okay? This is Irene. He does not like it when he is not the centre of attention. But yeah, I really liked how the book challenged this idea that there's different types of love. So there's platonic, there's familial, there's self-love, and it also did a really good job of breaking down misconceptions about asexuality and you know, I've been aroused for over 10 years now, and I still can't pronounce this word. Aromantic. There we go. Georgia Strugger's. I'm filming. Hold on. I'm really sorry if you can hear my cat purring throughout this. He just doesn't want to move from this spot. But yeah, as I was saying, the book doesn't really shy away from pointing out things like there's a lot of misconceptions about the aro ace identity, and I feel like the book addressed those issues very well. It also talks about how there are a lot of people who see it as a fake identity, and that's something I've only briefly, thankfully, had issues with talking to other people about. But it was really interesting to see that also portrayed in the book, because it's not something I don't really see or think people talk about or believe actually happens as a thing, especially because, you know, now we're in the year 2025, it's not 2020 anymore, but even it's still something that occasionally pops up, and a lot of people are like, nah, who's going to hate someone that isn't interested or swings either way? And there's a lot of discourse that comes with it, which I think the book portrayed very well. And I like that the book didn't diverge from how discomfort of the aro ace identity. I think he captured it very well, as well as the uncovering self-discovery, as well as it packaged it really, really well. So overall thoughts, this was a 5. This is in my top 10. It's a good job I don't have my top 10 anymore list, but this would be book number 2 on my top 10, and this is one of the few books in my top 10 that I have rated as a 5-star. Overall, Loveless was, for me, an emotional journey. I was laughing, I was crying, it felt like you grew with the characters. The character development was fantastic, the representation of aro ace and the identity was done brilliantly. I really liked how the book highlighted the importance of identity, friendship and self-acceptance, as well as like that slow burn that I didn't see coming. I feel like a lot of people will have seen that coming, but it just went over my head, quite like a lot of stuff has gone over George's head. Like Pip and Rooney being like, ended up in the end being a couple. I was fascinated by that turnout. I really liked how there was this connection with her, I think it's a cousin, Elise, who also is pretty much the same way inclined as Georgia is throughout the book, but we only see her towards the end during the holidays after the whole friendship group is like falling apart. If you like books with deep character exploration, I feel like this is definitely one that you need to pick up, because it doesn't just explore the aro ace identity. I know it's something I've blabbered about a lot throughout it. It does also explore things like a lot of the pressures in society for women, for men, for gays. Although it only briefly touches on a lot of these elements, I thought it was fascinating how she managed to get them all into one book. But it didn't feel forced at any point. It just felt like it was a natural rite of passage that we went on with through the same as the characters. I really like as well how the book focused on friendships over romance, especially as I struggle reading spicy books. It's not something that I particularly enjoy, so for me as well, seeing the discomfort as well around all these situations and just know, and like the setting of boundaries and her mate supporting with that, this book was absolutely brilliant from start to finish for me. This was I'd give it 10 stars. I'd give it 1,000,000. This is definitely like up there as one of my favourite books. This one is a copy I did borrow from the library. But another thing that I really liked about this book is how if you go to the back of it, after you finish it, there's the acknowledgements. And it says here, further resources on asexuality and aromanticism, which I didn't even know we had resources. I didn't even know there were resources for people who are ace, and this is just something that made me love the book all the more. Because it's such, I don't think it's something that really gets discussed about, but if you're not ace or on the spectrum somewhere, why would you want to know? Why would you need? And I feel like a lot of people can be quite rude when asking people who are on the spectrum questions. They're quite forward, and sometimes people just don't take. Sometimes people just don't take no for, like, I don't want to answer this, I'm really uncomfortable as an answer. And I really enjoyed how that was also portrayed in the book, because it was like, I'm not alone with this, especially as I don't know anyone else who's on the ace spectrum at all. But yeah, the way that this read, it reminded me a lot of me when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. So I honestly really enjoyed the book. Yeah, if you have read the book and you liked it, let me know what you liked. Have you read Loveless? Have you read any of Oseman's other books? She did write the absolutely brilliant Heartstopper series. Did George's story resonate with you? Let me know if you know of any books similar that also feature ace representation in the comments. I'm always looking for recommendations. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.